Hey guys, so for today's video I have another live brush and finger swatch video for you, and as I promised I am swatching the new LORAC Fairytale Forest palette. This is part of their winter/holiday collection. So I have already uploaded a video swatching the Mystic Oak, the Frosted Sequoia, the Sparkling, and the Winter Rose palettes. So if you're interested in any of those smaller palettes, make sure to check out that video. Just giving you a very quick little look at those. But I wanted to make sure that I went ahead and swatched this for you and uploaded it by the 16th, which I believe will be today as you're watching this, because this palette normally retails for $35, but it is currently only $21 at Ulta, so you're saving a considerable amount on that palette. Along with this Fairytale Forest palette, they've also placed this Noir palette on sale, which I've already posted a swatch video on, so you can take a look at that one. And they also have this LORAC Unzipped eyeshadow palette. This is one of their older ones. So really nice kind of rosy toned neutrals there. This one is on sale for $17.50. Another one similar to this Fairytale Forest and the Noir is the Soleil palette. And I picked this up when it was on sale during the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty. So if you didn't grab it then, this one is also on sale for $21. And I will just give you a quick look at it. So this is a much kind of warmer toned palette, and I guess I can show you kind of the shades side by side with the Noir and the Fairytale Forest. So you get 9 mattes and 9 kind of shimmers and metallics in this one. And then finally they also have the Artist Edition Meraki palette, and this is on sale for $27 down from $45. So this is a slightly larger palette, which looks like so. And you can see this one has 25 shades. And again, it's a mix of 3 rows of mattes and then 2 rows of shimmers and metallics, I believe. Okay, so let's take a look at this Fairytale Forest palette that is the subject of today's video. So this is an 18 pan shadow palette, and you get 16 grams or 0.56 ounces of product. You get a little look at the color story at the top there. And then it says on the back here, reinvented with professional makeup artists, this enchanting palette contains 18 nature-inspired shades, which together create a captivating look sure to capture the breathtaking sensation of sun rays peeking through the evergreens. From rustic sequoias to ethereal bronzes and deep clays, these universal flattering shades are enriched by every skin tone. Glisten like the luster of morning dew with ultra glittery shimmers, experience the wildflowers sway with foiled metallics, or soak into a lush meadow with buttery mattes. These ultra pigmented shadows are as good for the skin as they are gorgeous, with vitamin E, cucumber extract, and shea butter. Paint like a pro. And it says you can customize your palette by rearranging the shades in the order that you prefer. To remove any pan, flip the palette tray outward in order to expose the removal slots underneath. Use the included key to remove the pan from the palette and place it where you like. Replace the shades when you hit pan and reuse the palette to reduce excess waste. And they do sell some individual pans. Let's see, they don't have those on sale. An individual pan retails for $8, and they have 6 shades anyway on the Ulta website. So you can take a look at those to see if they would be of interest to you. I don't think that this is a vegan palette based on the other palettes that I swatched. I believe this does have carmine, but the ingredients are so tiny that I can't kind of see them very easily on this actual packaging. They do contain talc. Okay, so I can't really see it. It does have Red 40 Lake, but if you are vegan, just be sure to check that. And then on the back here, it says it's made in China and it has a 12-month shelf life. Okay, so let us look at the actual palette. So when you open it, you'll see the actual palette and then this little kind of paper sleeve. So make sure to pull this out. This is where the key should be. I've already taken this out of the box, so I think it might have kind of fallen out. But it should be kind of tucked in there. There you go. So that is what the key looks like. It has the L for LORAC. And the actual palette, pretty kind of basic, but I kind of like that, it's simple. And then you open it and it does have a mirror, as you can see there. And then this is the little kind of insert, like a lot of palettes will have that plastic sleeve. This has the shades on there, which is helpful to me because I can cover up the mirror while I'm swatching, but the shades aren't printed on the actual palette, so if that bothers you, but at least you can kind of see them all in one as opposed to kind of flipping it over to the back. So this one, there are 8 mattes and 10 kind of shimmers and metallics, and this is what they were talking about it flipping up, and then those are the holes on the back there. So you would just use this, or you could just use a pin or something to push out the pan, and you could either pop these in a different palette or rearrange them, combine your favorite shades from all these different palettes. So these, I believe, are all the same size. So just you can kind of get the color comparison for these similar palettes. So the Noir is much more kind of cool toned, neutral. The Soleil is much warmer, and you get kind of a mix of neutrals and jewel tones in this forest. So hopefully that'll give you a good idea of the color story. The Noir has the least number of mattes with 6. The Fairytale Forest has the next number of mattes with 8. And then finally we have the Soleil, which has 9. So if the number of mattes is important to you, the Soleil has the most, the Noir has the least, and the Fairytale Forest is in between. Okay. Okay, so before we get into the actual swatches here, I'll show you the tools I use. And to begin with, I do swatch on a primed arm, so I will be using the LORAC Behind the Scenes Eye Primer. As you can see, I've accumulated a multitude of these through gifts with purchase and that kind of thing. I think this one is still the most full, but anyway, I have plenty of that. This is just easy to dispense onto my arm, and because I have a decent amount, it can cover a larger surface area. For brushes, I use the Refer number 2 brush, which is a natural hair little shader. This is meant to kind of replicate the MAC 239, I believe. So if you're familiar with that brush, it's a similar type of brush. I believe these Refer brushes will be 50% off as part of their Black Friday deal. So if you've been eyeing these, I'll have links to everything in the description box down below. For the shimmers and metallics, I'll use the Refer number 21 brush, and again, I'll give Mel Thompson a shout out because she was the person who I think asked Reffer to create this brush. It's a version of the MAC 242, or it's very similar anyway. So I think these are a mix of natural and synthetic hairs. This MAC 242 that I have is an older brush. This one was made in Japan. I don't think they make MAC brushes in Japan anymore. And MAC, I believe, is now entirely a synthetic brush line. So yeah, so I'll be using these, and as you can see, I have 2 of each. I think what I'll do, trying to strategize here, I think I'll swatch all the mattes, and I do a dry brush and a finger swatch of matte shadows, and then I'll do 1 row of shimmers and then remove them and do the next. So because I do both a dry and a wet brush swatch of the metallic shades, those tend to take up more room. So hopefully I'll be able to fit all of those and do this kind of in 3 rounds. So I have 2 of these Reffer number 21 brushes. I'll try to keep 1 reserved for the wet brush swatches, but I think it might be inevitable that they do get mixed up. To wet my brushes, I will be using the Tarte Maracuja Miracle Mist, which is a nice kind of aerosol style spray, so it doesn't get too damp. And then in between swatches, I have this little sample of the Sigma, I forget the exact name of it. It was the Sigma kind of brush cleaning glove. And now they do sell something that is dedicated to removing shadow from brushes in between shades. But this is what I have. It was like a little sample, so I'll just go ahead and use this. I find that this is a little gentler on brushes than the Vermona Color Switch, which is what I used to use. Okay, so I think that's everything I needed to cover. And in between, I do remove the swatches with like a makeup wipe, but I do try to kind of make sure that the primer sets, and I remove any sort of excess moisture in between. So the arm feels pretty set, so we'll go ahead and start off with these mattes. The top row here is Birch, and they call that a soft tan matte. Oak, this is a beige cream matte. Earth, which is a warm brown matte. And Rosewood, which is a soft eggplant matte. Those are the first 4. And we'll see how good I am at kind of spacing these out. All right, so going next into Mushroom, which is a grayish brown matte. Fog, which is a smoky gray matte. Redwood is a true terracotta matte. And Woodland is a reddish cocoa matte. I feel like I'm playing eyeshadow twister here. Okay, so dreaded wrist wrinkles. Almost. Okay, so those are the finger swatches of the mattes. I don't know if you can see, there's some shadow kind of down here. That's not from swatching this palette, at least not yet. So I don't know if one of the other palettes I was manhandling lost some of their shadow, but it's not anything we can blame on this one, I don't think. Okay. All right, so taking my Reffer number 2 brush and going into Birch. These are very kind of creamy, buttery shades. I think luckily the darkest shades are at the end here, so I think we'll be able to avoid having to swap out the brush. So these almost have kind of a sheen to them, very buttery formula. Going into Earth, and this is basically my skin tone, so I'm not sure how well you'll see this one. Next, going into Rosewood. I think that shade just felt a tiny bit drier as I was swatching it, but it doesn't look like there's any issues with the application there. As you may know, purples can be kind of difficult to formulate. And I think we're on this one, Fog. I don't know if you can kind of see the powder kind of flying off my brush. All right, so then we have Redwood. And then finally, I might have to kind of bookend these swatches by putting Woodland up at the top here. Okay, so those are all the matte shades. I think you have a good range from light to dark. Some different tones. I mean, these are all kind of muted colors, so you're not going to get anything kind of super punchy or anything, but I think you can create some nice kind of grungier looks with these. And I don't know if you can tell, that's kind of the fallout, if you will, from this matte row. And I will show you the pans at the end so you can get an idea of kind of how they look after having been swatched. Okay, freshly primed arm here. So for the second row, which is the first row that has metallics, the first shade is called North Star. And that is a soft baby pink shimmer. Como Rebi, if I'm saying that right. This one is a pearl shimmer. I think the North Star formula seems a little bit different than the Como Rebi, but they're both called shimmers. Enchanted is a bronze with golden olive shimmer. And the last one here is Butterfly, and that is golden pink shimmer. I'll have to go in one more time for the last one. I think that one has a duochrome. Golden pink shimmer. Okay, so again, doing my best to space these. Those are the first four. All right, so just getting the last one in this row here. This one is called Wind, which is a forest green with golden shimmer. It's very pretty. Okay. So hopefully the camera is doing those justice. Okay, so let's do the dry brush. Okay, so going into North Star. And as I always say, if you don't want to use a finger and you want the best payoff, generally, those little foam applicators that sometimes come in eyeshadow palettes or quads are a good way to go. All right, going into Como Rebi. and this is Enchanted. So with the dry brush, you really just kind of get like a topper type effect. You don't get a lot of the underlying pigment, just get more of that sparkle. Going into Butterfly. Let's get close there. And then finally Wind. Okay, so those are the finger and dry brush swatches. Now let's go in with the wet brush. So I've said this in the past, but there are kind of different schools of thought in terms of using a spray or something to wet a brush. I just sprayed this and then I'm going back in to the pan. You can also try to pick some up on a brush and then spray it. I think some of these shades are just a little bit harder to pick up with a brush. All right, next into Komorebi. I think with that one I was able to pick up a decent amount, so it kind of foiled a little bit better. This one is Enchanted. Are you guys looking forward to the Enchanted sequel? I believe it's called Disenchanted. So that one, you can see it's a little chunky. Zoom in a bit. So you kind of have to kind of thread the needle between picking up enough to get like that kind of foiled effect, if that's what you're going for, versus it may be looking a little chunky. I am spraying these a decent amount, at least 2 or 3 times. I think this style of eyeshadow formula is very kind of modern, if you will. It does remind me of like Natasha Denona and that kind of thing in a lot of ways. Okay, so that is the first row of metallics. We have North Star Finger Dry Wet, Komorebi Finger Dry Wet, Enchanted Finger Dry Wet, Butterfly Finger Dry Wet, and Wind, so Finger Dry Wet. All right, so again, we are freshly primed. So going into this last row, the first shade is called Folklore, and they call this a champagne shimmer. This next one is Pine, which is a soft copper metallic. You would expect that to be a green shade, I think, but that is Pine. Grove, which is a toasted golden brown metallic. And finally, Wildflower, which is a rich plum with golden shimmer. So inevitably there's a little bit of sparkle left over from the last round, but okay, so that is Folklore, Pine, that's a really nice one, Grove, and Wildflower. And yeah, so I think these are both metallic formulas, so you can kind of see the difference a little bit more in terms of their metallic versus shimmer formula. I think even their shimmers are more like metallics in some other brands, but I think there is a difference there between what they're calling a shimmer and metallic in this palette. And the last one here is Evergreen, and this is an emerald shimmer. It's almost like a, I don't know, I'd call that almost like a peacock green. Has a lot of blue in it, I think. All right, so going in with our dry brush again, and going into Folklore. Next up is Pine. All right, next up we have Grove. And I don't think I've mentioned in this video, I know I've mentioned it in previous ones, but a lot of times I'll use a brush, usually a dry brush, to kind of get the placement of a shimmer, and then I might go in with a finger on top to kind of bump up the opacity and impact. Those two are not bad with the dry brush, although I think I am seeing some more fallout. That's another good reason to use either a wet brush or, because with a finger you can still get fallout, but the shadow has something to stick to when it's being applied. Sometimes it does a little bit better. Okay, so those are all the finger and dry brush swatches. So going back into Folklore, a little bit better on that. I love a good foiled metallic, so that's usually kind of my aim when I'm applying shadows like this. Next up is Pine. I don't know if that's meant to be kind of like the trunk, or maybe part of a pine cone. Next up we're up to Grove. This one is Wildflower. That one seems to be struggling a little bit. Really packing that on. And then last but not least, we have Evergreen. So that is the last row of metallics. So again, this is Folklore, Finger Dry Wet. This is Pine, Finger Dry Wet. This is Grove, Finger Dry Wet. Wildflower, this is Finger Dry Wet. And Evergreen, that is Finger Dry and Wet. Okay, so as promised, I will give you guys a close-up look at the palette after they have been swatched. I guess in terms of a recommendation, I do have that Noir palette swatch video, so you can take a look at that. And if you're deciding between this Fairytale Forest and the Noir, hopefully that comparison will give you some good information. So I think if you're watching this on the 16th, or if whenever you're watching this, this palette is currently on sale at Ulta, I think for $21, I think this gives you a nice variety of mattes and metallics, different colors and levels of color intensity to play around with. So I think this is a pretty versatile palette, and if you do later expand your collection, or if you buy more than one, then you can kind of curate your custom palette. So that's kind of a nice functionality. You can pop these out and put them into a different palette, like magnetic palette. So if you are watching this and this is currently on sale, I would recommend picking it up. I haven't used this on my eyes or anything yet, so I can't really speak to that. The LORAC Noir palette, though, is great on the eyes, so I don't have any kind of huge doubts as to the performance. If this is not currently on sale, though, and it's $35, I would suggest maybe taking a look at these 6 pans that I swatched for you. One of the biggest advantages with this palette is that it does have more mattes, and it has a pretty good variety of mattes. I would say there isn't a matte black, so that might be one kind of shade that you would want. The Noir does, I think, have that matte black, so and also a white or cream. Again, it kind of depends on what you're interested in. If you like having kind of, you know, smaller palettes that you can stick in a makeup bag and travel with, that kind of thing, I think these little 6 pans are great. And these are 15, so I think this normally retails for $35. So if you just want to kind of dip your toe into this formula and kind of see if it works for you, they have kind of a similar type of color story, but they're a little different in terms of how warm they are, that sort of thing. This one shade from the Mystic Oak, I just have to swatch it again for you. This was not my favorite palette from this kind of collection that they released in terms of the overall performance, but I keep thinking about this one shade and wanting to put it all over my eyeball. This one is Mist. So this is just, you know, a plain hand, no primer or anything like that, but good golly. So yeah, that one keeps living kind of rent-free in my head. So I don't think you can really go wrong. Like I said, I think this one was maybe the worst overall out of them, but then that one shade was so kind of mind-blowing that, you know, it might save the palette as a whole. So I would just think about, you know, what you're interested in, what types of looks you like to create, and go from there. So I think any of these would be a great option, either for a gift or for yourself, and lots of fun kind of colors and textures to play with. It is a little annoying that these inserts are not kind of printed. I think this one was just kind of folded, so it has a tendency to creep down there. But yeah, that's it for this palette. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, if you enjoy this type of video. Let me know if there are any other palettes that you would enjoy seeing swatched this way. I do have the new Too Faced Christmas in London palette coming to me, so I plan on swatching that one when it gets in. But otherwise, I just hope you guys are all doing well and staying safe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.